Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Let's Talk Sports Fantasy Football Show. I am your host, Ryan Larrison, at Triple FTP on Twitter, writer for Rotoballer and Yards Per Fantasy, and a part of the expert consensus for FantasyPros.com. I am joined today, as always, by my brother, Matthew Larrison, at Larrison Bets on Twitter, the host of Let's Talk Bets, which just premiered on my YouTube channel yesterday, too, which was nice. Matt, thanks for joining me to talk a little bit about this absolutely bonkers week one and then try and navigate it through to week two.
Absolutely. Week one is finally over. Thank God. As a fan, as a fantasy player, I mean, the guys you invested all your profit in, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, a little bit of Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, T. Higgins had 0 points. Like, it's over. We can rest easy now. It's not the end of the world, and hopefully we can get back to some normalcy.
Yeah, that is the hope. That's for sure. And I think we will get more back to normalcy. I mean, if you look at last week, I recorded my favorites and fades video that goes out on Saturday earlier this morning. And just looking back at some of the performances, I mean, top tier quarterbacks, there was none that were drafted in the top 5 rounds that had a good game. Like these big names all over the place had horrible games. T. Higgins with a goose egg. Mixon had a bad week. Like they're just all over the place. So we're going to be able to kind of wash that away this week and we'll move on. There's things you can take away from it, but I think you just got to move on from it and kind of dive into week two, and we'll get a little bit more back on track, which I'm sure Matt and I will talk about today when we go through the rankings. Let's plug the sponsor real quick. Underdog and Owner's Box, use promo code LTS, get up to a $100 price match on your first deposit. I feel like this is pretty self-explanatory at this point, but if you want to play daily fantasy, you want to do best ball fantasy, Underdog, Owner's Box, why not get an extra $100 on top of your $100 deposit that you make? You can use that for the entire season. I used it for the entire offseason, supplied me for months. So go ahead and do that. Support us. We really appreciate it. And let's dive right into some Thursday night talk, Matt. What are we expecting? We'll start with Philadelphia. What are we expecting from the Philadelphia side of things? Jalen Hurts had probably what's going to be going down as his worst fantasy performance of the season last week. Looked pretty rusty.
Which is still pretty good from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Kenneth Gainwell is out this week. He had 18 carries last week. One other carry went towards DeAndre Swift, and that was just about the bulk of the running back room. So we know we're going to get an active Rashad Penny at least tonight. I mean, it's pretty simple for me in terms of you start Hurts, you start A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Goddard. But that running back room, are you throwing anybody into the flex spot to try and get anything out of them or no?
I'm not, and it's not because I don't think that one of those guys could have a good fantasy day. It's just we really don't know. And Philly is really good at making you guess as to who they're going to use, and we saw that in week one, of course, with Kenneth Gainwell, who probably wasn't drafted in over 50% of most drafts before the season started. I really like A.J. Brown here. I think he's going to have a big game. I think the Vikings are weak at defense already, but, a guy like A.J. Brown, he's going to eat the defense alive. I like all three guys, though. Of course, like you just said, start them. Goddard, Brown, and Smith are already plays for, regular weeks anyway, but I really think they're all going to have a decent week this week. And Hurts is of course, going to have a strong week as well. I think he increases his rushing yards because of no Gainwell. I think that if he has to run, and if the Eagles have to run, it could be more Hurts than anything else. I really don't know if Philly knows who they want to use with Swift and Penny. You would think that they would have already really used them a lot last week, but they didn't. And that leads me to believe that they're maybe either not confident in one of those guys or they're kind of still in a feeling out process too. So I'm avoiding them. I kind of was avoiding them anyway because it's just such a chaotic backfield. But if you have to flex one of them, I don't really know. I guess Swift, because I think that he has more pass catching ability. But I wouldn't be shocked if in the third quarter, if Philly's winning by a decent margin, that Penny gets fed like Thanksgiving dinner. I think that he could really get a good amount of volume later in the game if they're up by a decent score. So on Boston Scott, it's not the Giants, so don't play him.
Yeah, Sirianni didn't help either this past week with his comments on DeAndre Swift. I don't know if you saw those on Twitter where he said some games he'll be the lead guy, and then other games he'll do what he did this past weekend. It's like, well, what
You
the hell are we
can't.
doing?
You can't do fantasy running backs for Philly. You just really can't. I think unless these guys start falling like flies and the room kind of gets a little smaller. There's just, I mean, Jalen Hurts is the running back for the Eagles. He's also the quarterback. That's kind of where you have to be with that. He takes away touchdowns. He gets a lot of yards rushing. So it's just really difficult to decipher. And I think personally, as the season goes on, we actually will find a better solution to the Philly running back system. But it's going to take some time. I think that they're going to, especially in a game like this against Minnesota, where Minnesota just literally passes 70% of the time. Philly's going to want to get up by a few scores and really solidify it. And look at the Philly defense tonight for fantasy, too. I think that they get some turnovers on primetime Cousins, maybe a pick six. So I really like them as a fantasy defense as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. Let's get to some questions here real quick. Got Randy Miller. Which duo scores more, JJ and Hawk or Goddard and AJB for fantasy and full PPR?
It's tough. It's tough because obviously JJ is the best receiver in fantasy, and Hawkinson's probably 2 or 3 in terms of tight ends, but it's an incredibly tough defense of Philly. And Philly could easily shut Cousins down.
The big thing for Hawkinson is Nakobe Dean's out. That's our starting linebacker and signal caller. So he's already going to be able to have an advantage playing against some backup linebackers. And the ball's going to have to get out quick for Cousins. He's got 2 offensive linemen missing their starters tonight. And one of them is his center, which is right where Jalen Carter lines up. And he was the fastest D lineman to the quarterback all weekend last weekend. So he's going to have a rough time. I think the thing is do you believe that JJ is going to get shut down again by Slay? He got shut down last year. I think it was like, 1 catch or something like that for 7 yards, something crazy. I saw it on Twitter earlier, the actual stat. But Goddard gave you the goose last week. I think he gets squeaky wheel treatment, and A.J. Brown's going to have a good game. So I think I'm going to bet on Philadelphia just because I don't trust the offensive line of Minnesota. But that's going to be about as close as it gets, I think. Follows up. Would you guys rather have an Eagles RB on your roster or an Atlanta pass catcher?
Eagles running back. I mean,
yeah, give me the running back.
I guess if you had Drake London, I might take them over Swift and Penny, but I couldn't really tell you who's beyond Drake London besides Kyle Pitts on Atlanta for the pass catchers. That's how bad it is in terms of fantasy for them. So, yeah, if I have London, I'll take London over Swift and Penny. But other than that, no, give me the Eagles running backs.
I still don't think I would take London over Swift.
Yeah, it's rough sledding right now for people who drafted Kyle Pitts and Drake London because it's really not that these guys aren't talented. It's because they just are not getting any type of volume. And even Arthur Smith came out and said, Drake London doesn't care about your fantasy team. We don't care about your fantasy team, which is just, that I understand why guys say that, but it's just, it doesn't resonate with me. Like, we pay your salary and, you should not care so you guys can win, but you should also understand that it's a big deal. So, he's a buzzkill. He's a big buzzkill.
I can spoil it a little bit. London made my fade list this week when I recorded my video earlier, and he's faded for the rest of the season for me. They had 18 pass attempts, not completions, pass attempts, and they handled that game. They're just going to, while the rest of the league is getting 2, 3, 4 good receivers, Atlanta says, we'll just take Bijan and a really good Tyler Algier, and we'll stack those 2 guys and run the ball, even when we shouldn't be running the ball. So
I don't think that. I just say no. I don't think that pans out the entire season. Anytime you look at a system, anytime you look at an offensive system that's not balanced, even Buffalo's a great example. On the other side, in terms of passing, you don't have a running game to establish. It doesn't end up panning out. You don't have a passing game to help your running game. It doesn't pan out, and I think it's going to hurt them in the long run. It's going to be fine for now. They're going to eat up on teams that don't do well against the run and are just not as strong. Like, you think of teams like Philly and New England, like those teams would maul the Falcons. But they're lucky they're in an easier conference and division, so they'll get away with it for a little while.
100%. And then we got our boy Farquad. Was Penny scrubbed on the weekend last week for load management reasons? I don't think so. I think they just legitimately feel
They had
that
a game
Gainwell's a better
plan.
back. But the thing is, for me, like to me, it's already been proven that Gainwell can't be that guy. He took 18 carries and is out with a rib injury, and this isn't something. If you dive a little bit deeper into reports, if this was a Sunday game and he had the full week, he still wouldn't be playing. So this is obviously an issue for him. He can't carry that much of a workload, I don't think, and I don't want to label him like that in his first game as an actual starter for the team, but it's not a good sign. What needs to happen for Philly is they need to rotate these guys in a fashion to where they can get the most out of them. All of them are big yards per carry guys, not volume guys. So got to figure out which one you want to be as the grinder. That should be Penny. Let's be realistic, but I don't know. Maybe they're just too worried about him getting injured, or they want to try and use some more explosive players, if you will, even though the guy's got like a 6 yards per carry in his entire career. But no, it's interesting. Vikings side of things, Matt, for tonight. JJ obviously in. TJ Hawkinson is in. Are you playing Madison, Jordan Addison? Oh, that's funny. Madison, Jordan Addison, or Kirk Cousins in tonight's game?
Definitely not Cousins. I think that let me put it this way. I think Cousins is going to have a lot of passing yards. I think that the receivers for Minnesota probably still have okay fantasy days because that's their whole bread and butter offense. But turnovers are going to be plentiful. Sacks are going to be plentiful. You're talking to missing starting offensive linemen on an offensive line that's already not very good. So that's just, salt to the wound. Madison is not, he's not a good play. I did have somebody ask me, do you like Darnell Mooney or Madison? And I said Madison because I think the volume is still there for Madison, and I'm not sure how well I like Mooney yet. With obviously DJ Moore's the starter, the number one guy. I'll take the volume potential with Madison. It's not going to be a lot of points though, I don't think. If you have to pick between those two guys, it's not the best suit this week. But yeah, fade Madison. I don't think Addison has the fantasy night that he had last week. He had a touchdown. It was a nice play. I think he gets some, but I don't think he gets what he had. JJ, obviously, you always play no matter what. This might be one of his lower weeks of the season. Yeah. But Philly, if you're going to stop anywhere, you're going to take Philly down anywhere in the defense, I think it's the secondary. I think they have one of the best D-lines in the league. Linebacker core is really strong, great pass rush. But their weak spot, I guess you could say, is probably their secondary. So I think that the receivers and Hawkinson will be fine. And Hawkins is another guy you start no matter what anyways because, he was a top 5 option. You drafted him high. I just don't really see any guys on the waiver wire tight end wise that I would play over him in that regard. So it's going to be a really interesting game, though, because really the script says that Philly should just absolutely dominate them because of the weakness that they have at defense and they're missing starters on the offensive line. And Philly is just such a good defense. But I don't know. We'll see if, the Vikings. I said it on the show, on our betting show. The Vikings are one of the teams that overperformed so much last season that I think that there's still a little bit of delusion with what this team really is. And it's not a good team. It's an 8-win team. It's a 9-win team. And in all retrospect, the defense is so bad that it's going to hurt them. I mean, it was easy to pick the Bucs last week to beat them. It was obvious, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was going back to Madison real quick. I was out on Madison last week, and had it not been for a late touchdown reception that was only a couple yards out, he would have been a horrible fantasy play. Still only finished right inside the top 20. So I don't know if I'm in on Madison for the entire year. Matt, I know you were higher on him entering the season. Have you changed your tune a bit after last week and how bad it was for the entire offense?
Tough slate. I mean, he's got the Bucs week 1. That's a decent defense. People don't want to say that because the team is maybe not the best because of Mayfield, but it's definitely a top 15 defense. And then Philly obviously is the gauntlet. They're just kind of screwed at that point. So I think it's better days ahead for Madison. And I can't avoid the fact that his volume is going to be there all season long. They could have gotten Kareem Hunt. They could have gotten someone else. So as a flex player, I love Madison. I mean, I'm not sold that he's an RB2. If you drafted him and he's your RB2, I mean, it is what it is. But he's one of the RB2s that I would try to not have. But as a flex player, give me Madison all day long just out of sheer volume. It's going to be 7 to 15 points, I think, is his window. And he may have a dud week. He may have a strong week, but I don't think he's a big boom bust candidate. I think he's kind of just really going to be 7 to 15 points because of he will run. He will catch the ball, and he will maybe get a touchdown here or there. That's where his 15 comes in. So, if you're banking on him being a league winner in terms of scoring huge weeks of points, I never saw that anyway. So,
yeah, I think that was kind of what people were hoping for. Moving on to the Jordan Addison fantasy managers who might want to flex him, especially after last week, because really, if you didn't watch the Eagles game, we handled the first half. The second half, we got torched by New England's passing attack, and it was not just by Kendrick Bourne. It was everybody was catching the ball well against us in the second half of that game. No James Bradbury. So it's going to be Slay all day on top of JJ to try and keep him from doing what he does best. And that means that Addison might be open to take some easy shots with a backup corner going on top of him. So it's possible. I think he's flexible. I want people to manage expectations, especially starting a rookie this early in Addison, who KJ Osborne played 95% of snaps last week. Addison had 51%. Addison still caught a touchdown, but you can't hope for that type of stuff to happen with such a low snap share every single week. So I think you should find someone that's a better option, maybe a little bit higher upside and wait. But if you absolutely have to, because there's just no one else on the waiver wire that you can grab or anyone on your bench that you can play, you can go ahead and go over top of that. Randy's back. Zay Flowers versus Cleveland. Andrew's back. Dotson versus Denver. Surtain's on Terry. Yep, he's not wrong there. Elijah Moore versus Baltimore, or Zay Jones versus Kansas City. T-Law is his QB. Over and under is 51 points. Full PPR for his flex. Who do you like most out of these guys, Matt? So Flowers, Dotson, Elijah Moore, Zay Jones.
Can you believe my answer is going to be Elijah Moore? I thought he had.
I cannot, because I'm definitely not picking him, but go ahead.
I thought he had a really good game week 1. He kind of gave us the answer we were expecting. Is he wide receiver 2 in Cleveland? Is he going to be relevant? I thought he did well. Probably Zay Flowers is going to be my choice. But I like Elijah Moore. I kind of wish I had him on my fantasy team. I didn't get a chance to get him. But watch out for him. Continue to watch his progression and watch how he fits in the offense, because Watson's going to have a good year this year. And I think the Browns are a sneaky team to win the North. I really do. I think they win to Monday night. I think they go 2-0. And I think Elijah Moore's a big part of their offense. I got to take Zay Flowers, though, because I'm sorry, it's Cleveland, Baltimore. My apologies. I thought it was Pittsburgh. That's Cincy, Pittsburgh, right? They played.
Yes.
Am I getting my games mixed up? There we go.
You got it.
Yeah, Zay Flowers has shown that he's a huge part of the offense. And you saw OBJ have a slow week. You saw Bateman have a slow week. Lamar Jackson's not a deep ball guy. He's going to have those couple of shots he's going to take throughout the game, but I don't know if it's anything worth relying on. And Zay Flowers is almost as much of a safety blanket as Andrews, and it's okay to have 2 safety blankets. You lost J.K. Dobbins, who did look pretty good when he was out there. That was a huge blow. They will use their multitude of running backs, but give me Zay Flowers to take all the things away that Lamar needs in terms of the 3rd and 5s and the short yardage. And he's fast enough and he's elusive enough to break out and get yards after catch. So in terms of who's proven, I would like Zay Flowers here. I like to watch Elijah Moore. I'd be happy if he's on my team. I know you're probably gonna give the Dotson love.
I will, but I'm not going to choose him.
Zay Jones is a great player, but I just think there's so much going on in Jacksonville. It's kind of tough to pick him over all these guys, especially Christian Kirk had a poor week last week. I think he bounces back. And Calvin Ridley solidified himself as the number one for sure. So give me Zay Flowers.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree. Zay Flowers is one of my favorites this week. He's going to make that Saturday list when that video drops. And the matchup really isn't very good. Like, it's a tough matchup against Cincinnati, but listen, everyone was talking about Puka Nacua last weekend, where he got the 15 targets, and it's very impressive for a rookie. It's only because we weren't talking about him before the season started. Zay Flowers had 10 targets, he had 9 receptions, 78 yards, and he even got a couple of rushing attempts in there, too. They're going to use him all over the place. He is the established one from week 1. He makes OBJ looks like he's running through mud. And Rashad Bateman played really just a sort of complementary role, which everybody was I shouldn't say everybody. There's a lot of Bateman truthers on Twitter that are fighting for Bateman to be the number one there in Baltimore, but it's just not going to happen. Flowers is too talented. He's too fast. And if you're worried about Andrews coming back, which he has that in parentheses there, I totally get it. But think of it this way. You put Andrews in there for a defense to have to focus on. That helps a speedy wide receiver like Zay Flowers get as wide open as possible. He had no problem doing that last week against Houston. So I don't think it's going to be more. I think it's going to be more of a net positive, maybe a couple of fewer targets, but better quality targets coming the way of Zay Flowers. Don't sleep on Dotson this week, though. Surtain is going to be on top of Terry McLaurin all game. That's going to leave Dotson wide open for the Denver game. I think he's going to have a good week.
Dotson's a slot guy anyway. I think he can play multiple positions in the sets for receivers, and I think that he
is also hurt. By the way, he might not play.
Yeah, I think that they're going to rely on him. Denver's defense is strong in terms of taking on teams like Washington. I think that Sam Howell will need to feel comfortable. He's not going to take the deep shots to Terry all game long. I think Dotson's the way to establish a good drive. And Gibson looked like garbage. Brian Robinson still had his low yards per carry, but he did fine, I guess. So they're going to definitely need to do Dotson to matriculate some type of decent drive. So in terms of commanders that I like, I guess Dotson probably is my favorite, just because I already don't like that offense. So.
Yeah, I understand that completely. He also says Elijah Moore usage is great. Johnny, I'm going to get to your question in just a second. Let's answer Farquad's real quick because I think it's going to be an easy answer for us. Start sit question at wide receiver, standard scoring. Start Amon-Ra, Godwin, Kirk, Dobbs, or Elijah Moore. If it's just one, it's Amon-Ra. I mean, I'm pretty sure you're the same. Yeah. Let's pick our second favorite just in case he has to pick two. It could have been just a mistype.
Yeah, Godwin. Come on, Ryan. Godwin. He's established. Kirk. Yeah. I think Kirk had good games. He's definitely going to bounce back. But they're kind of the same player to me. And Godwin he is Baker Mayfield's safety net, and it was proven. Baker took his deep shots to Evans. They were successful. Godwin was his guy.
Evans had 10 targets, though. So, he's taken a lot of deep shots.
I thought they played really well. And that's another reason why I like Philly tonight, because if they can do that against Minnesota, you can better believe Philly is going to pick two. So give me Godwin and Amon-Ra. Easy. That was easy.
Yeah, Amon-Ra is the easy one. I guess I'll say Godwin as well. Who's Tampa played this week? I can't remember off the top of my head. Chicago. Yeah. You gotta go with Amon-Ra. I love Dobbs' matchup this week. I think he looked really good last week. 2 touchdowns as the number one, and Christian Watson's not playing this week. Okay, is the guy who covers the Packers for Rotoballer, and I have to read through all the practice reports and stuff. Trust me, he ain't playing this week. Not a chance. Let's go to Johnny's question. 10-team PPR. With Myers questionable, thinking about putting an RB as my flex, who would you bench out of David Montgomery, Travis Etienne, Dameon Pierce, and Tyler Algier? Just a little follow-up, so we got more information. Went heavy on wide receivers. He's got Devontae Adams and Lamb, got Mahomes, but nobody is willing to trade with him to upgrade at running back, so he's in a tough spot. That sucks because Matt and I both know what it's like to not be able to get some trades done that should have been done. Out of these guys, Matt, who you mentioned, I I don't think I'd ever
Oh,
sit. I
sorry.
don't think
I'm
I'd
definitely
sit.
starting ETN.
What's that?
I'm definitely starting ETN. I thought it was start, so my apologies. ETN is the easy start.
Yeah.
Um, I would play Algier over Pearson Montgomery. I think Pierce is just they're playing the Colts this week, so he could have a better game than he did last week. So that is a little tempting. But man, Algier just looks. Why did they get Bijan Robinson? Like Algier is he is a starting running back on 29 other NFL teams. Like
Yeah. Do
just
you think that it's point chasing this week though, because of the 2 touchdowns? Do you think it's point
well,
chasing a little bit?
all of these guys besides ETN, you're point chasing because Montgomery. They just said Gibbs is going to get way more work this week.
That's true.
Dan Campbell came out and said that. I think Montgomery he did okay in that game. He did what he was supposed to, but he had low yards per carry. I don't think they were super satisfied with it. And when Gibbs was out there, their offense was humming just way better, in my opinion. Pierce is just the guy will never see a reception. Like he is just strictly, pound and ground and pound, and he's tough. I gotta go. I would bench Montgomery and Pierce, and I would play ETN and Algier if it's two. If it's just one ETN, if you're only having to bench one, I would probably bench Montgomery.
Detroit plays Seattle, and I think that they're going to be able. Well, Seattle really held the Rams in check too, but that offensive line is so bad compared to Detroit's. I'm not benching Montgomery. I would most likely bench Algier out of the 3.
What? Really?
Listen. I love Algier, you know that, but I
We're
can't
gonna
go.
we gotta go back to this one next week. I want to see
That's
where
fine.
these
We
guys.
can do that. We can do that.
Because I think that Pierce really shouldn't be a benchable guy, but Houston he obviously established himself as the starter. Singletary didn't do anything, but they don't use him effectively. They really don't, and I think they make it so obvious with him that that's why he also has struggles because they know they're not gonna have to expect him to catch out of the backfield, and you just can't do that in the NFL anymore. I mean, unless you're Derrick Henry, which even he gets receptions every now and then. It just hurts Pierce's value for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. I just Pierce is going to have enough work against an indie team that already had enough of a tough time stopping the run last week that I think he's got the highest touchdown upside out of those two. And I'm not expecting it. Algier had most likely his best game of the season last week with Bijan healthy. Like if Bijan's hurt, then he could have a better one. But that's probably the best he's ever going to do with Bijan standing there in front of him, taking those touches away. But that's not to say I don't think he's a good flex. I just don't think he's better than Pierce this week. And I'm not benching Montgomery probably until it gets to a point to where it's obvious that he's just no longer the dude and it's Gibbs. But we'll see. Hopefully that helps you. We gave you the guarantee you play ETN, and then the rest probably didn't really help much.
ETN looked really good. He kind of surprised me. He looked really good, and I don't think there's any fear of him not getting the starting job or keeping it anyways.
Let's go to Jude Rubin. Help me. Please, should I trade Cup, JT, and Brandon Ayuk for Brees, Garrett Wilson, and Mike Williams?
I wouldn't. Honestly, I wouldn't because of Ayuk.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Like, I don't want to send Ayuk away at all.
I don't like Mike Williams. We all know that. Brees looked good, but I don't know how to describe that Bills debacle. And a lot of Brees' success was on a big 80 or 90-yard run.
Let me take the Bills debacle from you since you're still probably shell-shocked and sitting there with PTSD. You got helicopters flying overhead and stuff. If you look back at that game and you watch when Brees touched the ball compared to when Dalvin Cook touched the ball, it's like one guy was shot out of a cannon and the other guy was running through mud. Brees is going to take this majority role over, and there's nothing that's going to stop this team from running the ball at an even heavier rate now that Zach Wilson is the starting quarterback. So the rotation is still going to be there. Give it another week or two. Brees is going to be the dude in that backfield. So I think he's a phenomenal trade for target if you have the ability to get him. I think that he's the perfect guy to just sit there, wait on, and you'll get the production out of him eventually. But the big thing for you here is you're sitting with Cup and JT, and it's just absolutely killing your roster. But you got Ayuk. You're trying to get good value back. I don't think I'd buy into both Jets at the same time, not knowing what the offense is going to look like. So I feel like you might be giving up a little too much at this point.
I have confidence that JT will come back before Cup. And I think that JT is going to be just fine. It's just, do you survive the time that you have to wait for both guys?
Do you survive?
It's true. I mean, these guys who had to get Cup and JT, it's like, man, I feel for them because that is probably the first 2 picks you made or the first 2 out of 3 picks you made. And it's just, that's rough. But Ayuk, I think, is just too good to lose. I don't know if I'd want Garrett Wilson and Brees. I just don't know if I could do that.
Yeah, having one or the other is great. I think that having at least one of those pieces is very good, but dude. Follow up, how about Cup for Brees straight up?
Yeah, I would do that.
I would too.
I don't know if
you're getting a guaranteed healthy player now, and you're getting a guy that can max out as a top 12 at his position. You don't have to wait. We don't know exactly when Cup is coming back. It was a re-aggravation. Those tend to last longer. So give me
Brees. And there's a lot of people that don't believe that Cup will come back at week 5. I think they believe it's going to be a lot longer.
Yeah, so, it's all guessing at this point. Like, you can't do anything but guess. But if you're getting a good return like Brees for him straight up, yeah, take it.
Yeah,
100%. Tepper off of Twitch, is CD for Ayuk and Brees good or no? Yeah, I'd take that all day.
I would take it. You're definitely, like, if I had to pick between CD and Ayuk, I would take CD. But adding Brees, like, you have to look at guys like each one is an intricate piece of value. So let's say CD's 100, Ayuk's 60, and Brees is 50. You win by 10 points in that trade. And actually, your Fantasy Pros do that. You can do the trade calculators, and they will give you your number for each player, and if it's worth the trade, if you're giving up too much, if you're not getting enough. So there's your plug for the day, Ryan.
Well, actually, all the websites I work for have a good trade calculator. I like to plug them all into all 3 and see which ones do what. But yeah, no, and this would definitely push that over the top. Ayuk, I think he's got just the highest ceiling on a weekly basis as CD. I'm not saying he'll finish higher by the end of the year, but he's got the ability to get 25-point weeks just as much as CD. And then adding Brees to that, yeah, you're selling the perfect amount for a star, bona fide top 10 wide receiver and getting the return back. So that's a good move. Please take it if you haven't already, because, man, I wish I could get trades like that from time to time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Real quick, before we try and do any sort of rankings, unless the questions start rolling in and it takes us the rest of the show, here's your injuries so far for week 2. I just highlighted the ones that have the most relevance. Out guaranteed is Gainwell for tonight's game, and then Greg Dulcich, he's listed as doubtful. No player that's ever been listed as doubtful since that tag came along has ever played a game, so don't worry about that. Dulcich will be out. You'll have to find another tight end, just like I had to after last week. Questionable, here are the big ones, and Matt, I'll do these and we'll just kind of quick hit them. Give me your quick thoughts. Mark Andrews, does he play?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so too, and they're going to need it because Baltimore needs to bounce back after last week. DJ Chark, does he play? Hamstring. No. Yeah, I don't think he does either. Brandon Cooks, MCL sprain.
Yeah, I don't know. If he doesn't, Michael Gallup looks a lot sweeter.
Yeah, for a spot start in the week, but are you spot starting him against the Jets? Because I'm not.
I mean, if you're looking for a guy on the waivers and you needed somebody in your flex and he was there and Cooks isn't playing, I would potentially use him. But I don't know if he plays. That's tough. He's an older player. That's just too bad for him, man. That sucks.
I think they got to give him at least a week. Give him a week to rest. Like he's pushing 30, and if they want they're not going to have a route like they had last week every single week that they play a team. Like they can lean on the defense all they want, but if you want to make a deep playoff push, you want him healthy. You don't want him. If this is an MCL sprain and he re-aggravates something or makes it worse, he could be done for the year. So you don't want that. Where am I at here? Jerry Jeudy, questionable again heading into this week.
I think he does play. I think he does. Okay. Signs are leading towards positive news. But if not, this will be the last week he's not playing.
Do you play him if he plays this week?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Just for me, whenever it's a player coming off of an injury, what I always try to tell people, because most of the time they expect like, yes, I got my top 24 wide receiver back or something like that. Just manage expectations, okay? You just want them to go out there, look good. If they have the big game, great. If they have at least a decent game, that's still good. Like, there's no reason to worry about it as long as they can make it through.
No Deltrich either. That's a big deal.
It is. And Troutman will get his. They've already talked about that. He'll have an increased role, but that's not going to matter. Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. I can tell you just from having to read all the reports, no chance Watson plays. He's literally just stretched in practice. He has done nothing else, but they list him as limited. That's not practicing. Doubs, I think Doubs is just load management at this point for his hamstring injury that he's still recovering from. So I think he plays.
Easy, yeah. Doubs played last week. He's going to play this week.
And he's a good play this week. Falcons, that game, I mean, Jordan Love just tossed 3 touchdowns last week on only 15 completions. I think that's going to work out very well. Kelsey, go off, Matt. Is Kelsey playing?
He's playing. Taylor Swift might be in attendance. He's going to score 9 touchdowns. Yeah. You get in the house.
At least one hip thrust touchdown celebration is happening.
If you don't throw me the ball 50 times, like I will go to another team. I think
trade request will be put in. Real quick, Tepper came back. I think they did the trade. Pick 2, Breece Hall, Mike Williams, Najee Montgomery.
Breece and Najee, easy. It's easy.
Nope. It's not easy. Najee is out of my lineups this week. No, thank you.
I'm not putting Mike Williams in there.
I didn't say Mike Williams. Montgomery. Najee, no. Not against, let's see. Pittsburgh plays, oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, Steelers on Monday Night Football. Pittsburgh plays Browns on Monday Night Football.
That's what I thought. I thought they
Browns just absolutely decimated Joe Mixon. Najee Harris is just slightly better than Joe Mixon. Najee Harris had 6 freaking carries in week 1. I want nothing to do with Najee Harris. I think he's going to be the draft bust of the year this year. So
I gotta go with Najee, but I'll take Breece easy.
Yeah, Breece is the easy one. You can flip a coin between the other two. Make sure it lands on Montgomery's side. AS. Should I trade my Puka Nacua and I'm assuming Joshua Kelly for Chris Godwin and Christian Kirk, or Nacua and Damian Harris for just Godwin straight up?
Well, Damian Harris is pretty much a non-factor. So you're basically saying, should I trade Nacua for Godwin? Yes.
Yeah, the second one is better. Austin Eckler's still not practicing. We didn't get to him yet on that list, but I think he's missing this week.
I would do both trades. Even if Kelly has a good week this week and Eckler might be out, Kirk is just too good of a value to pass up. Unless you have Eckler, I would keep Kelly.
Yeah, I was going to say, you do the second one above the first one, though. The 2-for-1 is better than the 2-for-2 in this case, in my opinion. So, yeah, do the 2-for-1. I still love Nacua, though. Nacua. Follow up, he says, pick 6 to know if I'm playing Swift, Amari Cooper, Christian Watson, Hopkins, Flowers, Pacheco, Swift, Najee, Nacua, Swift, Kelly. Okay. Sorry. That took me a second there. There's too many. There was too many there for my brain to register at that moment. Also half PPR. Thank you for the whole list because that helps out quite a bit.
No Christian Watson, so that's easy.
Cut Christian Watson out because he's most likely not going to play.
Amari Cooper, Hopkins, Flowers. Swift is on there twice. Swift is on there 3 times.
Double Swift, triple Swift.
Yeah, I have to put him in now, right?
I mean, let's get through the 6. We might.
Amari, Hopkins, Flowers,
Mm-hmm.
Nakua.
Mm-hmm.
This week, if no Eckler, Kelly for sure, and Pacheco. So I guess you're really saying, do you want Najee or Pacheco, or because I would like Nakua, Flowers, Hopkins, and Amari are easy.
Yeah. Who was it that you left out again? I'm reading his comment as well, saying that
I left Najee.
Yeah, leave Najee out. I'd play Kelly over Najee this week. I would.
Yeah, if no Eckler, definitely Kelly.
Yep. So now seeing the team, what deal do you like the best? I still think it's the bottom one, the 2-for-1, Nakua and Damian Harris for Godwin, because you take those two out of the situation, then you're starting 6 for sure is Amari. When Christian Watson's back, you'll start Christian Watson, but it's Amari, Flowers, Pacheco, Hopkins, and then Godwin, and then you're picking between Kelly, Swift, and Najee. And I think for this week, I would hold out for Kelly because it's not looking like Eckler's going to play. The 2 straight DNPs is not a good sign for any player. So if you can get Kelly in there, that's a good starting 6 for this week.
It's early in the season too. They might temper Eckler so that they want him at 100%.
They also own Kamara and Kupp, which is good. Once one of those guys come back, fantastic. Or I should say both of them, honestly. But bottom trade is what we would do. So that way you got Godwin in that 6 that we named. Tepper's back. Do you think I can get Amon-Ra St. Brown for Garrett Wilson and Najee? Yeah, give it a shot. I don't see why not.
It's a fair trade.
And I would send that every day. AS, so no Swift tonight. With what you have, I would sit Swift. It's too risky. And with the potential, because, if you sit Swift, you're going to have the choice between Najee and Kelly. And again, as much as I'm not a big fan of Najee this week, he's got more guaranteed volume than Swift. Swift had 1 carry last week. I know that Gainwell's out, but there's a chance that Penny comes in and they just give him a ton of work. Or Boston Scott's active every single week. He finds his way onto the field. So you either get the guaranteed touches with Najee, or if Austin Eckler's out, you've got a potential top 12 guy on the week in Kelly, especially after what he looked like last week when he filled in for Eckler. So, yeah, I would sit Swift tonight because of the situation you're in. Not that you have to sit Swift if you have him. Your situation personally, I would sit him compared to the other guys you got. Oh, where we leave off? We left off at Mr. Kelsey, correct? Jacoby Myers with his concussion history.
I don't think he plays. And you don't have Jimmy G on here. Is he back at practice?
Both him and Devontae Adams are full today.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think Jacoby plays, unfortunately. Good for my Bills, but
yeah, that's true. Eckler, we just kind of talked about it. I really don't see it. I don't see it.
I think they like Kelly enough to just use Kelly and they have multiple running backs. They always use multiple running backs too. So I think they want Eckler to be healthy. I think that's more of a precedent and a priority.
They're playing a stingy Titans team too. Like, these are both 0-1 teams that were this close to a victory last week. So they want Eckler, but if he's not practicing the last 2 days, I don't see how they get him out there. D-Hop popped up today, and I think it was a full DNP, but he practiced yesterday, so it's not clear if it's just vet rest. It could very well be veteran rest for DeAndre Hopkins. Watch tomorrow. I think he's going to play, but if he's a DNP tomorrow, find backup options. But I don't think that's where we're going. It doesn't seem to be that much concern. Yeah. Juwan Johnson popped up today. No practice or limited practice participation, which sucks because I love Juwan Johnson. He's phenomenal. He really is. He's underutilized there too. They need to trade him somewhere where he can be appreciated. Kendre Miller returned to limited practice this week. Might see him pair up with Jamal Williams against Carolina on Monday Night Football. It's a Monday Night Football doubleheader, and they get to play Carolina at 7:15 EST. So be on the lookout for that. He might play, but you're going to have to wait till Saturday reports for that. I wouldn't play him for fantasy, but just as a keep it in the back of your mind because you want to watch that type of stuff for a good Saints team. Darren Waller came out today, said that the hamstring issue isn't an issue, the nerve issue isn't an issue. They're just managing his workload throughout the week with limited practice participation. I think he plays. And it's squeaky wheel gets the grease time for this whole Giants offense because they get to play the Cardinals on Sunday.
Yeah, they better win. They better win by at least 6 because I have them winning by 5.5. So let's go, Giants.
Yeah,
if you don't win this game, you need to get a different quarterback.
Cardinals don't want to win. They almost won last week, and every Cardinals fan was hoping for them to lose.
Yeah, they like to keep it interesting, though.
That's good. That's good. The script is written very well for that team. Giants will lose the game. They're cooked. Hey, that's a bold prediction, but I could see it.
Daniel Jones is just not him. He's not.
I've been saying that for years. Everybody on Twitter, I don't know, Daniel Jones is good. Yeah, well,
you and I both have been saying that.
Yeah, I know. I've just been more vocal because, it's my division rival. So Breece Hall is limited. I'm not worried about him. They've already said that he's most likely going to play. They're just limiting his reps because of the injury recovery. Freiermuth still limited. I think he DNP'd Wednesday, and then he was limited today with that rib injury the chest injury that he suffered on the touchdown catch last weekend. So with all these other tight ends that are on this list as questionable too, you're going to want to dive on the waiver wire to find some tight ends. Might I suggest Hunter Henry, who plays against Miami? That would be my main target if you need to replace one of these guys. And Deontay Johnson reported to miss multiple weeks. Now he said he's day to day.
Is this the resurgence of Allen Robinson, Ryan?
No. Allen Robinson could have a fine game. Not too worried about it, but I'm not picking him up anywhere, man. Like, is there any situation you think you could see yourself playing him?
So I picked him up. I just want to see.
Did you pick him up in our league?
I did.
I did not see that.
Volume. I want to see the volume. I want to see what kind of role they use. And I don't know how long Johnson is out. This might be multiple weeks. He can say day-to-day all he wants. They said day-to-day for Kupp, and look at Kupp.
It's at least 3. The timeline for average hamstring injuries is 3 to 4 weeks, and then they got to make sure they bring him back properly before they stick him back onto an NFL field. So I've seen him dropped in leagues because people don't want to waste the time on it. And Steelers looked like dog water on Sunday. So it's kind of tough to believe in. And if you have a George Pickens, you made a good pick because now he's going to get fed. And Freiermuth will too. AS says Steelers play Monday. Freiermuth will play. I think he will as well. I don't like the non-practices during the week. It always, I probably have, it's probably just because I have to look at these things every week for work. And every time I see a DNP, half the time they just don't seem to play for some reason. So it's just being shell-shocked at that point. Let's see here. Get this off of here. And I got to bring up my rankings, which the percent went down. So apologies for that. I want to go through the tight end rankings real quick because I think we should go through tight end and quarterback just so we can give some streaming options for this week. Let's see if it actually pulls up here. There it goes. Okay. We can start at the quarterback position. Got Josh Allen bouncing back to QB1 this week. Got Jalen Hurts at 2, Mahomes 3, Lawrence 4, Burrow.
I don't see it. There.
Yeah, there she goes. I don't know why that didn't work that way. So yes, Allen 1, Hurts 2, Mahomes 3, Lawrence 4, Burrow 5, Herbert 6, Jackson 7, Fields 8, 2 and 9, Anthony Richardson 10, Goff 11, Deshaun Watson at 12. And then my top 3 streaming candidates of the week: Jordan Love, Daniel Jones of Arizona, and Brock Purdy. What do you think, Matt?
Throw a little love to Geno. I think Geno bounces
I've already
back this
bumped him
week.
up. He was too low.
Yeah, I'll take Geno over. I take him over all three of those guys. Jordan Love, and
No.
Purdy. Yeah. Daniel Jones has got to show me before I even consider playing him. I don't care if he's playing the Cardinals or Colorado State. Like, I don't feel comfortable at all. Brock Purdy, great quarterback, but fantasy-wise, it could be tough. He could just have a really good game, but it doesn't amount to much in terms of yards and touchdowns. So he's kind of tough. I just think that Geno, especially against the Lions, it's probably going to be a high-scoring game. I think Geno definitely bounces back. He didn't look bad in the first half of that Rams game, but the game script for that, what they tried to do playbook-wise was terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Hooked him in the second half. Got Tepper back. Would you trade Ridley and Brees for Devontae, which would be Adams? He says he declined it. Want to make sure it wasn't a mistake. You were correct. Don't worry about it.
I love Ridley. I love Ridley almost as much as Devontae Adams.
I want Ridley over Devontae Adams. If it was a 1-for-1 trade, I'd want the Ridley side, personally. No thanks on that Las Vegas Raiders offense with Jimmy G. AS, he says, I don't think the Godwin guy will do the deal unless he gets Kelly as well, so it would have to be Nakua Kelly for Godwin Kirk.
I'm still fine with that.
I'm not as fine with it. I think that
you're getting two guaranteed receivers that are established in their offenses. Nakua's a nice story, but he could end up being a nothing after Kupp comes back, and who knows. And Kelly is a backup running back to Eckler. He is efficient, but you know you're going to get something with Godwin in terms of production.
Yeah. You've convinced me. Yeah, I would do that. I would do it just to get the guarantee of wide receivers. We've seen your team. It'll mix in very well. And then once Kirk has his bounce back, you're going to be happy about that. Nani. That's all I'm going to call you is Nani. I got Aaron Jones, but he's injured. Should I start Pacheco or Roshan Johnson or Jalen Warren in his place? So Jones, from reports today, there's a chance that he's going to get in limited work tomorrow, and because of his veteran status, they may just play him. But do not be surprised if he is limited in the game to a smaller snap share if he does play. Out of these three, I love Roshan and Jalen Warren, but I don't think I could start them over Pacheco at this point until we know that they're going to get more guaranteed work. Pacheco is going to get double-digit carries no matter what. Yeah. And after last week's game, and KC gets right this week.
They tried CEH and it didn't work last week. I think I don't know what they were doing, the flash in the pan maybe for him, but it's Pacheco's backfield, and McKinnon will spell passing catches. So, and Pacheco will catch the ball too.
He will. He'll get some targets. He's not bad after the catch. I'm trying to find the Chiefs game. I remember they play Jaguars. And for the Jaguars' sake, if you saw last week and you're like, oh my God, their run defense is great. It was Deion freaking Jackson. So don't worry about that. They're not a very good run defense. So don't worry about that too much. Matt, my big fade this week for guys that are starting quarterbacks, at least as drafted as starting quarterbacks, is Prescott against the Jets. Do you agree that a lot of these guys that I have above him that are streamers, you would play over Dak this week in a really tough matchup against the Jets?
Yeah. Jets defense is for real. As a Bills fan, obviously, I know that all too well. I don't like Dak this week. I think the Cowboys rely more on their defense again, especially with a weak Jet offense. Mm-hmm. Boy, the Dallas defense is a great play this week against Wilson. And I really don't like Derek Carr either this week because Carolina's defense is really good, especially against the pass. So those are my two fades for sure. Kirk Cousins is where he should be. Philly's a tough defense. I think Mac Jones might have a decent game this week. Miami just doesn't – they want to play offense. I don't think they want to play defense. And until they show that, they're going to let teams like the Patriots who have struggles on offense stay in the game because their defense is just kind of they're kind of loose. That's how I would describe it. Is loose.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on to the tight end position real quick. We got about 5 minutes left before the show ends, and we'll run through the top 12. Got Kelsey at 1, Andrews 2, Waller at 3 against Arizona. I think he balls out. Hawkinson's at 4. Philadelphia has no linebackers right now that are of note, so he's going to have a great game tonight, I think. Evan Ingram at 5 against KC, high scoring affair. Goddard gets right against Minnesota at 6. Kittle at 7. Hunter Henry at 8. That's my big move up. I have him 4 spots higher than the ECR. I think he has a great game against Miami. David Njoku at 9. Freiermuth at 10. Pitts at 11. Sam Laporta at 12. And then my top 3 streaming option, or I should say top 4, because these guys are kind of all in the same tier. 4 streamers of the week are Musgrave, Kincaid, Juwan Johnson, if healthy, and Zach Ertz, who had 10 freaking targets last week, if you can believe that. Anything you want to comment on here, Matt?
I feel so bad for Kyle Pitts, honestly. We slander him so much, but there was a great video.
All the past 2 years, and now we're starting to feel bad.
There was a great video of him. He burned a receiver so bad and was wide open, and like you could see Ritter's side of things, and he just like dumped it off and didn't even try to look in his direction. Like, this guy is not getting used at all. It's probably one of the most frustrating offenses to watch for fantasy. I mean, if you're a Falcons fan, they're doing okay, so you're probably pretty happy, but it's just not going to last. So I feel bad for him. In terms of, I like Kincaid. I know I'm a Bills fan, but I think he did a lot last week, more than I expected against a tough Jet defense. So look out for him. He is kind of sneaky. I think he continues to build in the Bills offense, especially when they tell Josh Allen to kind of slow it down a little bit and not make so many risky moves. Ertz is an anomaly. If he continues to do what he's doing, I am targeting him like crazy in fantasy, because the Cardinals will just feed him, just continue. So watch him. If you have a spot to sneakily just take him and put him on your roster, I would do it, because there's a chance he might end up being a top 10 tight end this year. Just off of.
If you're hurting at tight end, which I think about 90% of every league is, he's not a bad one to stick onto your bench. This is a good way to end the show, Matt. Let's help out Nani here. Says this is first year fantasy ever with their friends. Any tips on the team? It's a 10-man full PPR league. Lamar Jackson at quarterback, Tyreek Hill and CD at wide receiver. That's a phenomenal combo. Aaron Jones, Damian Pierce at running back, Laporta at tight end, McPherson and 49ers defense. Bench is Gainwell, Warren, Roshan, Rashi Rice, Musgrave, and then Drake London. So Addison at flex. Apologies. They also added Addison at flex, which helps you out, because my first initial thought here is top 2 wide receivers are great. You're super top heavy, which it's, that happens. But adding in Addison as your flex as your 3, to be able to have London as your 4 and then Rashi Rice as your 5, I think you're in a really good spot. The place you need most help is running back. I think you've got 2 rookie tight ends that you can rotate every week and play matchups with, so you don't have to go crazy and try and find one, in a trade or anything like that. Running back is just the main place that you're going to have to try and address, most likely through trade. Aaron Jones is perfectly fine when healthy, but like you've already seen, he's got some injury issues that he's going to have to deal with. Matt and I have talked at length about Pierce today, where I think this week is a good matchup, but he's a very volume-dependent, pretty touchdown-dependent RB2, which you more likely want him as your 3. Do not do anything with Gainwell, Warren, or Roshan. Matt, I don't know about you, but Roshan and Jalen Warren are my 2 favorite backs to have on the bench right now, because I think both have a chance to become the starter by the end of the year, especially Roshan.
Yeah, I agree. Don't lose those guys unless somebody gives you a really good deal, but try to get another back. But other than that, I mean, CD and Tyreek is deadly, and then Lamar's going to have a great season this year. London, I mean, if you can piece him in to get a different running back, I would do it if somebody will take it.
If you could piece London with Pierce to get an upgrade at running back at your 2 spot, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Who are some targets that you think you could get for that, Matt?
Oh, let's see. Off the top of my head, Pacheco.
You think that's a big enough upgrade? I think you could do a little better than that.
Well, yeah, he could. I'm trying to be conservative.
We don't go for conservative here, Matt. We go for the gusto.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
Let's go to the running back leaders real quick. What about James Conner? Would you do it for James Conner? Oh, he forgot to mention he left out one. He also has Pacheco.
So you're in a better
hilarious,
spot.
by the way. Yeah, I think you're in a decent spot. If you do, you would definitely send Pierce.
Target another.
Yeah, they said that's their last bench spot because Gainwell went to their IR. If you pair Pierce with Drake London, I think you can target to get another RB 2-3 at least on that threshold. Would you do James Conner?
I don't know. He scares me. He's already hurt. You see that?
What about? Do you think that they could get Miles Sanders for that? Probably not. I think Sanders is too coveted.
Yeah, too high.
What about Javonte?
If it's not a Broncos fan, yeah. I love Samaje Perine too, by the way.
I wouldn't do those two for Perine. I think that's too much. But
not for Perine, no. I just like him a lot.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I would go for that. Like, let's see, they don't have Brees. I would go for like the Dalvin Cook tier of running back, Javonte, Dalvin Cook, maybe. Who I said originally there, James Conner, that type of tier running back. I think you could get for those two. And then you'll be sitting pretty. You'll have a great wide receiver room, a very reliable running back core. You've got one of the best defenses in the league. You've got one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and you've got you've got good rotational tight ends, as I said. So hopefully that works out for you. They say thank you so much for the advice. Having tons of fun with my first season. Have fun, man.
Addicting.
Welcome to fantasy. Only advice I'll give you outside of that is don't join too many leagues. Know your limits. I'm in like entirely too many in the high double digits. So don't join too many leagues. But have fun. I hope that works out for you. Come back next week. We'll have more time to answer your questions. But we're going to leave it at that, guys. Matt, go ahead and plug what you got going on for the week, and then I'll plug the rest of my stuff.
So we are now on Wednesdays for Let's Talk Bets at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Tanner has joined the crew, so it's the three of us now, Scott and myself. So join us 5:30 p.m. Eastern, and then of course the fantasy show 5 o'clock Thursdays Eastern time.
Yep, and I'm starting to get the ball rolling with the YouTube content on Fantasy Football for the People's official YouTube channel. Every Saturday at about 8 a.m., you're going to get my favorites and fades video, 15 to 20-minute video of some of my favorite guys to start and my favorite guys to fade during the week. You can follow. I got a TikTok open now, so you can go to TikTok. I cut those videos up, make them into nice bite-sized pieces to give you guys extra content throughout the week. Also trying to do some, short, quick waiver wire stuff over there as well. Just so that way I don't got to do another full video every single week, but to give you guys my information on it. And then, you can just follow me at FDP on Twitter. Follow Matt at Larrison Bets on Twitter. You'll see any of my content that goes up on Rotoballer in the description below are all the links to all my stuff. And that's going to do it for this week, guys. Have a great week. Good luck. Hopefully it's not as hectic as last week and a little bit more on the nose. And we will see you next time.